Happy Sunday, everybody. Happy Sunday. Thanks again for the support and welcome back to Heroes in My City. Not every day do you have a chance to sit down with a president. And today we are privileged and honored to be able to sit here with the president of the Broward County Urban League Young Professional Network, also known as the YPN for those that know. But not only is she that, she's the 2021 recipient of the Broward College Pillar of Her Community Award. She's a voting rights activist. So please allow me to first introduce you all to the president, Miss Brenda Morrison.
Thank you so much, Greg, for having me. And thank you all to your viewers that are checking this out. My name is Brenda Morrison. I serve as the president for the Urban League of Broward County's Young Professionals Network. It's kind of what I do volunteer-wise, but at my core, I just love being around community, playing my part to kind of create some sort of impact, however that might be. So I'm happy to be here, happy to join y'all today, and I'm definitely looking forward to this conversation.
And now, if that didn't sound like a presidential response, I don't know what does. Put a little pressure on me. That's okay. When we first had this conversation, you mentioned to me how, you know, your backstory getting into community leadership was a little unique. Would you mind kind of sharing that with us today?
Absolutely. So when people think about people being active in the community, the first thing you might think about is that they're outgoing, they're loud, in essence, in terms of they're not afraid to speak their mind. They're not the one that's kind of being shy in the background. If you got a question, if you got an opinion about something, they're the first people to say something about it. I wasn't that. I was shy. I didn't necessarily thought that I had a particular route in community work at all. I was just figuring out my way around things. I am an immigrant. My parents immigrated here back in 2001, but they were in their 40s. And so trying to figure out and navigate America in essence and end up navigating how I would create some sort of impact in the world was definitely left upon me. And I didn't necessarily know how I could do that, you know, in addition to kind of finding my voice.
Now, from Kingston, Jamaica to Dillard High graduate to FIU graduate to most recently receiving your master's at Nova Southeastern University. Congrats, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Where was that moment when it hit you like, this is my passion, this is my path?
Oh, man. I have to say that it was when I got introduced to the Urban League. I think I was probably in my second year at Broward College, and I was flailing all over the place, if I'm honest with you.
Okay.
I didn't know what I was going to do next. I knew this was an institution that I, could go to after I finished high school, but I didn't necessarily know what my pathway would be. And so I remember when I went to the Urban League, which I got introduced through a mentor of mine, and she said, I think this is something you might want to check out. I think this might be beneficial to you. And I was able to go check out my first YPN member orientation meeting, and I just remember the information that was shared to me. I wish I saved the Snapchat video, but I remember going home after, and I put a video together on Snapchat, and I said, this is going to change my life. I don't know how it's going to, but it will definitely change my life. And it was the first place that I realized that it gave me room to shape how I wanted my experience to be. Not that the environment was going to make it what it was for me. I had the ability to shape it how I wanted to. And that was a lightning bolt for me. I spent time just being observant, and I'm like, okay, all right, I'm knowing this, I'm learning this, I'm knowing that. And I didn't think about being a leader at the time, but not knowing that, just being observant, being in a room, pushing myself to be in a room when most folks, I'm probably the youngest person in the room. That is kind of what became the fuel to fire to be like, okay, I think this is really on my heart to do, not just as a career, but ingrain it in the person that I want to be.
Now you mentioned your mentor. How important is it to seek mentors, or also to be a mentor, you think?
Oh, it is so very important. Even if you think about it from the background of somebody who you are seeing family members model up the way the life that you want to live, or you don't see people modeling up the way a life that you want to live. Just being able to have somebody to talk to that might have walked in similar shoes as you. We all think that, as we grow into our adult life, we slowly start to realize that life is not meant to be done alone. And so for me, I didn't necessarily knew like what the word mentor was, what it meant, or how I could go about getting it. But I think just God had a unique way of just divinely putting people in my life that I didn't know that I needed. And it started with one person, and it just continued to add on for me, to where now I'm appreciative that as I continue to figure out what my pathway looks like, I have people to still reach out to say, hey, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? Or just seeing them model what they're currently doing now. There might be certain aspects of what they're doing that I might want to incorporate, whether it's in my personal life, whether it's in my career. But it is so important, because you can only be what you see. And so mentors definitely serve a pathway for that.
As the Madam President, as we all prefer to call her, we are in a state of what I consider to be the post George Floyd era.
Yes.
We were all aware of these things well before the world became aware of it. But how important is it now that things seem to be kind of dying down a little bit? How important is it for us to still stay vigilant in that fight? It's
super important to stay vigilant, because what people will see is what gets videotaped, what gets sensationalized in the news. There are many things that are occurring that don't necessarily get news coverage. There are things that don't necessarily get videotaped, but those very things affect your day-to-day life. When it comes to, I think the bigger issue, that was really put forth was like, how do you then say it's okay to have somebody kneeling on a man's neck, and you got to sit here and like feel like you got to beg to make people realize that this is something that's actually wrong. This isn't right. And that was a life that was taken away that shouldn't have happened at all, nonetheless, even in that manner. And I think for us, when it comes to even the justice system, or we like to say the criminal justice system, there's a lot there's a lot of points that are at stake that a lot of people just don't see. It's not necessarily visualized, but it matters a lot in terms of preparing ourselves, unfortunately, if another George Floyd is to happen again. But figuring it out what it is, and then, in addition to like coupling it with staying vigilant, is going to help us in some ways move forward.
Now, I can recall last time during voting season, the biggest response that I would receive from people is, how do you know that my vote even matters? What is your response to that?
So my response is even looking inward to your local community. I know a lot of times if you take it at the top of the ballot is what we normally say, which is like who's at the beginning of your voting ballot.
Yeah.
Most people will look at that and say, well, I voted for this person, I voted for that person, and nothing has changed. What matters, that does matter at the top. However, what's below that and what's down the ballot also matters a lot. That's where you have your local judges. That's where you have your local commissioners. That's where you have, and that's city commissioners, that's county commissioners. You have your sheriffs. You have all of those local positions that are on there. And even when it comes to a simple situation as if you are in your community and trash pickup isn't happening regularly, or if trees are getting cut down and you're like, I don't really like the trees getting cut down, or the trees might be a shade to you and it's getting cut down. An issue like that, that's being solved by your local county commissioners, and that's by your local city commissioners that you are able to vote for. When it comes to certain issues, as is like with, I know a big issue right now is property taxes.
Yeah.
And even the housing situation. Again, all of those tie into your regular day-to-day life. And if you decide to not vote, then that's a vote in itself. You're just not at the table.
Obviously, when when I see you, you know, I see the what are those?
The twist.
Twist. I'm sorry. I don't
No.
want to get it wrong. Get it wrong. You know how women are about their hair. Very particular. I don't want to call them the wrong thing, but I see the twist, but it's noticeable.
Yeah.
It's noticeable.
Yeah.
So break down the Crown Act for us and
Okay.
why it's important to not only you, but
Absolutely. So there have been cases where students who have had locks or protective styles, and that could be box braids, that could be any wig, any bit of the sort that just may not necessarily look like, you know, it's grown from your hair. There have been cases where people have been discriminated against in the schools and also in the workplaces. There have been cases that have shown that within the workplace, people have been wrongfully dismissed from jobs, even been given job offers and had job offers rescinded because of the type of hairstyle that they have. There have been prominent cases around folks, high school students having locks and not being able to walk the stage at graduation because in some form or fashion the locks violate some sort of code of conduct type of thing. And so for me, it's like the Crown Act is important is because most people will think, why do I need a law to protect something that comes uniquely from me? But as a person that has worked, done community work, and as well has worked on the legislative side, for every injustice that we may inherit, to be able to try to combat that is through legislation. Try to make the law universal. And so that is why the Crown Act is important. But in my eyes, for something that's uniquely ours, it doesn't disrupt, who you are as a student. It doesn't disrupt who you are as a professional. You should not be discriminated because of it. And it is something so simple, so clear, that it's again, on the other side of people to just be like, why can't we just be, this is just uniquely ours? Why do we have to be subjected to the discrimination? On my end, it's just bringing around awareness to it. Because the people have the power at the end of the day. I had the opportunity to be one of the folks who spoke in support of it being passed in Broward County. I don't take that opportunity lightly at all. To just be able to give my 2 cents about why it was just important to me just as an individual.
I tell you what, I'm having a hard time seeing you as being a little shy student at high school. Oh man, were you in the band?
I was.
Oh, yeah. What did you do in the band?
I played trumpet.
The trumpet?
Yeah.
Uh-oh, now Dilla got a good band now. So I'm having a hard time seeing you out there with your high knees.
Yeah, I was the shortest one on the first line. And
Yeah.
I played in marching band and also in my jazz band too.
Okay.
So I had 2 dual roles. I was the shortest person in marching band, and then I was the only girl in the trumpet section.
Oh.
And I really had a love to want to play saxophone. I don't know.
Okay.
I was just amused by it. I was
Sax
I want.
is hard. it's a lot of keys going on that sax.
Right. And so it didn't work out. There's something how you play is called embouchure, and my embouchure was not really made for playing sax, but it was definitely made for playing the trumpet, and I don't regret it.
Yeah, the only thing my embouchure suited me to play was the radio.